The cafeteria at Galactic Academy Station Concordia was always loud during lunch. Hundreds of students from different planets filled the huge room with noise. They talked, laughed, and ate together at long metal tables. The air smelled like a mix of different foods from across the galaxy. Some sweet, some sour, some that humans could not even identify. But in the far corner of the cafeteria, there was silence. Lyra sat alone at an empty table. She was small even for her species. Her skin was pale purple, like lavender flowers, and her eyes were large and dark. She wore the same gray uniform as everyone else, but somehow she looked different. Separate. Alone. She picked at her food tray without really eating. The nutrient paste on her plate was getting cold, but she did not seem to notice. Her eyes stayed down, looking at the table. She did not look at the other students walking past her. She already knew what she would see. The way they turned their heads, the way they whispered, the way they chose any other table, even if it meant standing and waiting. Lyra was Velesian, and right now being Velesian meant being alone. Her planet had been at war just a few months ago. A terrible civil war that killed millions. The Velesian government had used weapons that were banned by galactic law. They had hurt innocent people on other worlds. When the war finally ended, the galaxy did not forgive. Every Velesian became guilty in the eyes of other species. It did not matter that Lyra had been just a civilian. It did not matter that she had been against the war. She carried the shame of her whole species now. At the cafeteria entrance, Taman walked in with his friend Bora. They were both human, both second-year students in the engineering program. Taman was tall with dark hair and kind eyes. Bora was shorter with her hair tied back in a practical ponytail. They had been friends since their first day at the academy. "I'm starving," Bora said as they got in line for food. "That quantum mechanics exam killed me." "You did fine," Taman said, but he was not really paying attention. His eyes had found Lyra in the corner. He watched as a group of students approached the tables near her, looked at her, and then walked away to find seats somewhere else. Anywhere else. "Hey, who's that?" Taman asked, nodding toward Lyra. Bora glanced over while putting food on her tray. "Oh, that's the Velesian girl. First year, I think. Xenobiology program. Why is she sitting alone?" Bora gave him a look like he had asked why space was dark. "She's Velesian, Taman. You know what happened. Their government used chemical weapons on the Trekor colonies. Thousands died. The Academy Command told us to keep our distance, professional boundaries and all that." Taman frowned. He watched Lyra push food around on her plate. Her shoulders were hunched like she was trying to make herself even smaller. Invisible. "She didn't use those weapons," Taman said quietly. "No, but her people did." Bora paid for her food and started walking toward their usual table where other human students sat. "Come on, everyone's waiting." But Taman did not follow. He stood there with his tray looking at Lyra. Something about the scene bothered him deeply. It reminded him of stories his grandmother used to tell, stories about Korea when it was divided into North and South, how families were separated by a line they did not draw, how people were judged not by who they were, but by which side of the border they were born on. His grandmother always said the same thing. "Taman, remember that politics divides, but humanity connects. Never forget to see the person." At their usual table, the other human students were laughing about something. They did not notice that Lyra existed. Most students in the cafeteria did not notice her, or they pretended not to. She had become invisible through their collective decision to ignore her. Taman made a choice. He turned away from his friends and walked toward the empty corner. Every step felt heavy. He could feel eyes on him now. Conversations were getting quieter. Students were starting to notice where he was going. The huge Drazen student named Cross, who looked like a dragon standing on two legs, stopped eating and watched with yellow eyes that gleamed with interest. Lyra saw him coming. Her eyes went wide with confusion and then fear. She quickly started to gather her tray, her three-fingered hands shaking slightly. She thought he wanted the table for himself. She thought he was coming to tell her to move. It had happened before. "Wait," Taman said. He was standing right in front of her table now. The whole cafeteria seemed to be holding its breath. "Mind if I join you?" Lyra froze. Her hands stopped moving. She stared at him like he had just spoken in a language her translator could not process. "What? Mind if I join you?" Taman repeated. He was already setting his tray down across from her. "This seat looks good. You want to sit here?" Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "With me? Unless there's a rule against it." Taman smiled and pulled out the chair. He sat down like it was the most normal thing in the world. "I'm Taman, by the way. Engineering track, second year." Lyra looked at him like he might disappear if she blinked. Her large eyes were shiny, like she might cry. "Lyra," she said softly. "Xenobiology. First year." Behind them, Taman heard footsteps. He turned to see Bora standing there with her tray. She looked uncertain, glancing between Taman and the table where their friends sat. Then she looked at Lyra, who was still staring at Taman in disbelief. Bora sighed and sat down next to Taman. "I'm Bora. Also engineering." From across the cafeteria, Cross's loud voice boomed out. "Look at that! The humans and the warmonger sitting together. How perfect! Your species loves war too, doesn't it, humans? You're all the same." Some students laughed. Others looked uncomfortable. But Taman did not react to Cross's words. He simply opened his food container and looked at Lyra. "So, xenobiology. That sounds really interesting. What made you choose that field?" Lyra blinked. Nobody had asked her about her studies. Nobody had asked her anything in weeks. Her voice was shaky when she started speaking. I study microbial life, especially organisms that live in extreme environments, like the methane seas on Titan 7 or the acid clouds of Velor Prime." "That's amazing," Taman said, and he meant it. "Do you think life could exist in even more extreme places, like inside stars or in the quantum foam of space itself?" Lyra's face changed. The fear and sadness started to fade, replaced by excitement. "Actually, there's a theory about plasma-based life forms that could exist in stellar coronas. The energy requirements would be massive. But if consciousness could arise from electromagnetic patterns instead of chemistry..." She talked, and Taman listened. Bora asked questions about bioengineering applications, and for the first time in months, Lyra forgot to be afraid. She forgot to feel ashamed. She was just a student again, talking about the things she loved with people who cared. Around them, the cafeteria slowly returned to its normal noise. But something had changed. Something important. It was small, almost invisible. Just one human moving his tray. Just one simple question. But every large change starts with something small. Lyra did not know it yet, but her life at the academy was about to become very different, for better and for worse. The ice had been broken. Now they would all see what lay underneath. The next morning, Taman arrived at his locker to find it destroyed. Someone had painted words across the metal door in bright red paint. The words said, "Valesian lover" and "traitor." The paint was still wet and dripping down onto the floor. Do-Yun, Taman's roommate, stood next to him and whistled low. "Wow, you really made someone angry." Do-Yun was a tactical studies student, built like a fighter and always ready for trouble, but even he looked concerned. "It's just paint," Taman said. He opened his locker carefully, checking if anything inside was damaged. Everything looked fine. Just the outside was vandalized. "It's not just paint, man. It's a message." Do-Hyun crossed his arms. Cross and his friends are spreading rumors about you. They're saying you're sympathizing with war criminals, that you're disrespecting all the people who died because of the Valesians. Lyra didn't kill anyone, Taman said. He found a cloth and started wiping the paint off his locker. She's just a student. I know that. You know that. But try telling that to everyone else. Do-Yun helped him clean. Look, I'm not saying what you did was wrong. I'm just saying be ready. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Do-Yun was right. In his morning engineering seminar, Taman felt the cold shoulders. Students who usually talked to him suddenly had nothing to say. When he suggested an idea during group work, his teammates ignored him and used someone else's plan instead, even when his plan was better. After class, the professor asked him to stay behind. Professor Venthar was a Qualian, one of the species known for being diplomatic and fair. His body was made of living crystal that changed colors when he talked. Right now, those colors looked troubled. "Cadet Taman," the professor began, his voice like wind chimes. "I want to speak with you about your recent social choices." "You mean Lyra, sir?" "Yes. I understand you have been sitting with the Valesian student." The professor's crystals flickered yellow, which meant concern. "I must advise you to reconsider this association. The situation with Valesia is very delicate. Many species lost family members to their government's actions. Your friendship with this student appears insensitive to those who are still grieving." Taman chose his words carefully. "With respect, sir, holding Lyra responsible for her government's crimes seems insensitive too. She had no power over those decisions. She was just a civilian, a teenager." Professor Venthar's crystals turned blue, which might have been respect or sadness. "I understand your point, Cadet. Your human idealism is admirable, but you must understand that in space, perception matters as much as truth. Sometimes more. The other students see you defending a Valesian, and they think you do not care about their pain." "I care about their pain," Taman said, "but I also care about hers. She's suffering too. She didn't start that war." Noble words. The professor's colors dimmed slightly. "But nobility does not protect you from consequences. Be careful, Cadet Taman. The galaxy is not always kind to those who stand alone." Taman left the classroom feeling heavy. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe he was making things harder for himself over nothing. Maybe it would be easier to just sit somewhere else. But then lunch came, and he saw Lyra in the cafeteria. She was sitting at the same corner table, but this time she was not alone. Bora was already there, and she had brought another human student named Jiwan. Jiwan was in the medical program, known for being smart and outspoken. "Hey," Jiwan waved when she saw Taman. "Saved you a seat." Taman sat down, feeling some of the heaviness lift. "How did you end up here?" he asked Jiwan. "Bora told me what you did yesterday. I thought it was brave." Jiwan turned to Lyra. "Plus, I wanted to meet the person everyone's talking about. I'm Jiwan, medical track." Lyra looked overwhelmed. "You don't have to sit here. I heard what happened to Taman's locker. If you're seen with me, they'll target you too." "Let them." Another voice joined them. A human student named Yun set his tray down. He was a navigation specialist, quiet and precise. "I've been watching this situation. It's not right. You're being punished for things you didn't do." "But why do you care?" Lyra's voice broke slightly. "Why would humans, of all species, defend me? Your history has violence too. Wars, weapons, terrible things. You should understand why everyone hates me." Taman met her eyes. "That's exactly why we understand. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other. We had wars that killed millions. We used terrible weapons too. Nuclear bombs, chemical gas, biological warfare. We know what it's like to carry that shame." "But we learned something," Bora added. "We learned that punishing children for their parents' mistakes only creates more hate, more war. It never ends unless someone breaks the cycle. We learned that peace doesn't start with governments or treaties, Ji-won said. It starts with people, with small choices, like where you sit at lunch. Lyra's large eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink them away, but they fell anyway. I don't understand you humans. Everyone else in the galaxy sees my skin and thinks, murderer. But you see me and think, what? We think student, Taemin said simply. We think person. We think someone who deserves a chance. Across the cafeteria, Cross was watching them with his yellow dragon eyes. He was sitting with a group of students from various species, all of them looking angry. One of them, a Qualian with dark red crystals, shook his head in disgust. The humans are making a mistake, Cross said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. They're too soft, too forgiving. That's why their planet almost destroyed itself before they joined the galaxy. They never learned that some things cannot be forgiven. Should we say something? Hyun asked quietly. No, Taemin said. Let them talk. We're not doing this to make them happy. We're doing this because it's right. Over the next few days, more students started joining their table. Not many, and not all at once. But slowly, one by one, a few brave souls decided that maybe Taemin had a point. Maybe punishing Lyra for things she did not do was wrong. A human from the linguistics program. A Tyrellian who had lost family in a different war and understood the pain of being blamed. Even one of the younger Qualians, despite what his professor elders were saying. Their corner table became known around the academy. Some students called it the Rebel Table. Others called it the Human Sympathy Club. But the people sitting there just called it lunch. Lyra began to change. She smiled more. She spoke up in classes. She walked through the hallways with her head up instead of looking at the floor. For the first time since coming to the academy, she felt like maybe she belonged. But not everyone was happy about this change. Cross and his group grew more hostile. They whispered insults when Lyra passed. They excluded anyone who sat with her from study groups. They spread rumors that the humans were planning something, that they had their own agenda. The tension in the academy grew like a storm building on the horizon. Everyone could feel it. Something was going to break. It was only a question of when and how. Taemin knew it too. He saw the angry looks, heard the whispers, felt the walls being built around their little group. But he also saw Lyra laughing at something Ji-won said. He saw her teaching Bora about xenobiology with excitement in her voice. He saw her becoming herself again, and he knew, no matter what came next, that moving his tray to her table had been the right choice. Sometimes the right choice is not the easy one. Sometimes standing up means standing alone, even when others slowly join you. Sometimes changing the galaxy starts with changing one person's day. The storm was coming, but they would face it together. The combat simulation room was massive, designed to look like the inside of a real starship. Metal corridors stretched in every direction, lit by red emergency lights. The air smelled like heated metal and recycled oxygen. This was where combat tactics students learned to fight in real situations, or as close to real as training could get. Today's exercise was a shipboarding scenario. Two teams would fight to control different sections of a damaged vessel. One team played attackers trying to take the ship. The other team played defenders trying to stop them. Weapons were set to training mode, which meant they would sting but not really hurt. Losing meant your suit would lock up and you would be marked as eliminated. The computer randomly assigned teams. When the names appeared on the screen, everyone in the class went quiet. Lyra and Cross were on the same team, defending Team Blue. Taemin was on the attacking Team Red, along with Bora and Do-Yun. Cross's face went dark with anger. His scales, which were usually gray-green, turned almost black. No, I'm not working with her. Reassign me. Instructor Nara stood at the front of the room with her arms crossed. She was an older human woman with silver hair and a face marked with scars from real combat. Everyone knew she had been a soldier before becoming a teacher. Nobody argued with Instructor Nara. "Teams are final, Cadet Cross," she said in a voice that allowed no argument. "You will work with your assigned teammates." "She's Valesian." Cross pointed at Lyra like she was something dirty. "Everyone knows they can't be trusted. They stab you in the back. I won't risk my grade on her." Lyra stood very still, her face carefully blank, but Taemin could see her hands shaking at her sides. "You will work together, or you will fail this exercise," Instructor Nara said. "Choose now." Cross's yellow eyes burned with hate, but he nodded. "Fine. But when we lose, everyone will know why." The simulation began. Taemin's attacking team moved carefully through the corridors. Do-Yun took point, checking corners with his tactical training. Bora covered their left side. Taemin handled their right. They moved like they had practiced, smooth and coordinated. Through his helmet display, Taemin could see the defending team's positions marked as blue dots. Lyra's dot moved intelligently, taking good defensive positions. She was trying to set up a crossfire that would catch the attackers in a trap. It was smart tactics, but Cross was not following her plan. His dot moved randomly, ignoring the positions Lyra suggested. Through the team communication channel, Taemin could hear the defending team talking. "Cross, I need you to cover the left corridor," Lyra said calmly. "They'll try to flank us from there." "I don't take orders from you," Cross growled back. "I'll position where I want." "But that leaves our flank exposed. Please, we need to work together." "Work together? With you? I'd rather lose." And he did. Cross deliberately left positions empty that Lyra tried to defend. When she called out enemy positions, he ignored her. When she tried to coordinate their defense, he went the opposite direction. The defending team fell apart. Taemin's team pushed through easily. It was not even a fair fight. Within 10 minutes, the exercise was over. Team Red won. Team Blue lost badly. When the simulation ended and everyone removed their helmets, Cross immediately started yelling. "See? I told you. She's useless. We lost because of her." The other students murmured. Some nodded in agreement. They had watched the simulation on screens, but they had not listened carefully to the communications. They only saw that the team with Lyra lost. "Cadet Cross." Instructor Nara's voice cut through the noise like a knife. "I monitored the entire simulation. I heard every communication. I saw every move." "Then you saw how she failed," Cross said. "I saw how you failed," Nara corrected. She pulled up a replay on the big screen. Everyone watched as Lyra's dot moved to good positions, while Cross's dot deliberately went elsewhere. Cadet Lyra made tactically sound suggestions. She tried to set up proper defenses. She warned about flanking positions. Every single warning she gave was correct. The screen showed Taemin's team exploiting exactly the positions Lyra had worried about, positions that Cross had left empty. "You ignored her," Nara continued, her voice hard. "You deliberately sabotaged your own team because of your prejudice. You endangered your teammates. You failed them." Cross's face turned darker. "She's a Valesian. They can't be trusted in combat. Everyone knows this." "She's a cadet," Nara said loudly. "Just like you. She wore the same uniform. She followed the same training. She tried to work as part of a team. You did not. You are dismissed from today's exercises. Report to my office after class. We will discuss your conduct." Cross stormed out, his tail smashing against the wall in anger. The other students looked uncomfortable. Some still seemed to agree with Cross. Others looked like they were reconsidering. After class ended, Taemin found Lyra sitting on a bench outside the simulation room. She had her head in her hands. Her shoulders shook like she was crying, but she made no sound. "Lyra, Taman sat down next to her. Maybe everyone's right. Her voice was muffled by her hands. Maybe I shouldn't be here. All I do is cause problems. Cross hates me. Half the school hates me. Now you lost friends because of me. Your locker got vandalized. How long before they do worse? None of that is your fault. But it happens because I exist. She finally looked up. Her eyes were red and wet. If I just left, everything would go back to normal. You could have your friends back. The academy could be peaceful again. If you left, the bullies would win, Taman said firmly. Cross and people like him want you gone because your presence makes them uncomfortable. It makes them face their own prejudice. Leaving would just prove them right. But I'm so tired, Taman. Lyra's voice broke. I'm tired of being hated, tired of being alone, tired of fighting just to exist. You're not alone. You have us. Bora, Jiwon, Hyun, Do-Yun. We're not leaving. You should. For your own good. Before Taman could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. A voice came over the loudspeakers in every language. Emergency! All personnel to stations. Civilian transport in distress. Repeat, civilian transport in distress. All available rescue teams report immediately. Students started running. Instructors shouted orders. Within seconds, the peaceful training station transformed into an active rescue operation. Instructor Nara appeared in the corridor, her face serious. Senior cadets, we need rescue teams. The transport ship has lost power near the asteroid field. 47 civilians on board, including children. We deploy in 10 minutes. She pointed to several students. Taman, Do-Hyun, Bora, Min-jae, you're on Rescue Shuttle 3. Then she pointed to Lyra. Cadet Lyra, you're on the same shuttle. Your xenobiology training includes survival in extreme conditions. We might need that. Lyra's eyes went wide. Me? But I'm only first year. First year or not, you have skills we need. Get to the shuttle bay, now. They ran. All of them. The personal problems, the social drama, the prejudice and hate, all of it disappeared in the face of real danger. Real lives that needed saving. In the shuttle bay, Taman pulled on his emergency vacuum suit. Next to him, Lyra did the same, her three-fingered hands moving quickly despite her fear. You okay? He asked. No, she admitted. I'm terrified. But those people need help. That's what matters now. The shuttle launched into space. Through the windows, they could see the damaged transport tumbling slowly toward the asteroid field. It was breaking apart. Pieces of hull were already floating away into the dark. They had maybe an hour before it broke completely, an hour to save 47 lives. And Lyra, the student everyone wanted gone, might be the key to saving them all. The universe has a strange sense of timing. The rescue shuttle shook violently as it approached the damaged transport. Space debris peppered their shields like deadly rain. Through the front window, the asteroid field looked like a wall of spinning rocks, each one capable of destroying their small ship. Min-jae sat in the pilot's seat, his hands tight on the controls. Sweat ran down his face despite the cold, recycled air. I can't get close enough. The gravitational pull from the asteroids keeps changing. Every time I try to approach, we get pulled off course. The transport ship was tumbling slowly, pieces breaking off as it spun. They could see lights inside flickering weakly. People were alive in there, waiting, hoping someone would save them. We're running out of time, Instructor Nara said over the communication channel. She was on another rescue shuttle, also struggling to approach. That ship will break apart in 30 minutes. We need a way in now. Taman looked at the sensor readings. The gravitational variance was insane. The asteroids were pulling the transport in different directions, creating an unstable field that changed every second. No computer could calculate a safe approach path. The variables changed too fast. I can do it. Lyra's voice was quiet but steady. Everyone in the shuttle turned to look at her. She was strapped into a seat, her purple face pale with fear, but her eyes determined. "What?" Minjay asked. "I can guide you in. I can sense the gravitational changes." Lyra unbuckled and moved toward the front, holding onto handles as the shuttle shook. "Velesians evolved on a binary star system. We have natural sensitivity to gravitational fields. It's how we navigate our home space." "You can feel gravity?" Bora asked, surprised. "Not exactly feel. It's more like knowing. Like how you know which way is down even with your eyes closed." Lyra looked at the spinning transport through the window. "I can sense the gravitational currents. I can find a safe path through them. But someone has to trust my directions exactly." Minjay looked at her doubtfully. "No offense, but I've been flying for 3 years. You're asking me to ignore my instruments and trust your feelings?" "I'm asking you to trust my species' evolution. We've been navigating gravity wells for thousands of years. It's in our biology." Lyra met his eyes. "I know you have no reason to trust me. I know what everyone thinks of Velesians. But those people in that transport don't care about politics. They just want to live." Silence filled the shuttle. Outside, another piece of the transport broke away and tumbled into the asteroid field. "Instructor Nara," Minjay said into his comm. "Cadet Lyra says she can guide us in using Velesian gravitational sense. Should we try it?" There was a pause. Then Nara's voice came back. "Do you trust her, pilot?" Minjay looked at Lyra, really looked at her. Then he glanced at Taman, who nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "I trust her." "Then you have authorization. Cadet Lyra, you're cleared to guide. May the stars be with you." Lyra took a deep breath. She closed her eyes and reached out with that special sense only her species had. The gravitational currents became visible in her mind, like rivers of force flowing through space. She could see where they pushed and pulled, where they created safe passages, and where they would tear the shuttle apart. "Minjay, I need you to fly exactly as I tell you. No hesitation, no second guessing. Just do exactly what I say the moment I say it." "Understood." Minjay's hands were ready on the controls. "Forward thrust, 30%. Hold steady." The shuttle moved forward. The transport loomed larger. "Left, 15 degrees. Now, right, 5 degrees. Increase thrust to 50%. They slipped between two asteroids that were spinning toward each other. The gap was barely wider than their shuttle. Bora held her breath. "Hard right, now! Drop thrust to 20! Minjay obeyed instantly. A massive asteroid passed where they would have been, so close they could see the ice crystals on its surface. "You're doing great," Lyra said, her eyes still closed, her face focused. "Forward again, 40% thrust. Hold for 5 seconds. Now left, 20 degrees. They danced through the asteroid field like a leaf on a stream. Lyra called out directions, and Minjay followed them exactly. They moved through gaps that seemed impossible, avoided collisions by meters, rode the gravitational currents like expert surfers. On the other rescue shuttles, crews watched in amazement. "How is she doing that?" someone asked. "She's Velesian," Instructor Nara said quietly. "Maybe we forgot that different species have different gifts." Finally, after 10 minutes that felt like hours, their shuttle reached the transport. They matched its tumbling rotation and locked onto an airlock. "We're in!" Minjay shouted. "Beginning docking procedure." The airlock connected with a heavy clang. Taman, Dohyun, and Bora grabbed emergency equipment and prepared to board the transport. "Good job, Lyra," Taman said as he checked his vacuum suit seals. "The hard part comes next," she replied, opening her eyes finally. They looked tired. "Saving those people." The rescue team entered the transport. Inside was chaos. Emergency lights flickered. Air was thin and getting thinner. Smoke filled some corridors. They could hear crying, shouting, and the terrible sound of metal tearing. They found the civilians huddled in the cargo bay. 47 people from different species, parents holding children, elderly individuals too weak to stand. All of them terrified. "We're here to help!" Taman shouted. "Follow us to the rescue shuttle. Move quickly, but stay calm." They started evacuating people, one by one, family by family. Bora helped carry a small child whose parent was injured. Do-hyun supported an elderly Qualian who could barely walk. They worked together, moving people through the damaged corridors to safety. But then the transport shuddered. A terrible grinding sound echoed through the walls. Red warning lights started flashing faster. "Structural collapse imminent," the computer voice announced. "Evacuate immediately!" "Everyone move faster," Instructor Nara ordered through the comm. "That ship is coming apart." They were almost done. Just one more family. A Qualian parent and child were trapped in a corner of the cargo bay. A massive support beam had fallen, pinning them. The parent was protecting the child with their crystal body, but the beam was crushing them both. "Go!" the parent said to Taman. "Save the others! We're trapped!" "We don't leave people behind," Taman said. He grabbed the beam and pulled. His vacuum suit enhanced his strength, but the beam was too heavy. It barely moved. "Taman, the structure is failing!" Bora shouted. "We have to go now!" "Not without them!" Taman pulled harder. His suit's warning lights flashed. He was damaging the mechanical joints, but the beam moved a little more. Not enough. Then Lyra was there. "Move over." Her smaller body slipped into the narrow space next to Taman. Together they grabbed the beam. "On 3, Taman said. 1, 2, 3. They pulled, two species working as one. Human and Valesian. The beam lifted, just barely, just enough. "Go!" Lyra shouted to the trapped family. "Get out!" The parent grabbed their child and ran. Do-hyun caught them and helped them toward the shuttle. But the beam was so heavy. Taman's arms shook. His suit beeped warnings. He couldn't hold it much longer. "We need to let go and run," Lyra said through gritted teeth. "Together," Taman agreed. 3, 2, 1, now! They dropped the beam and ran. Behind them, the cargo bay ceiling started to collapse. They dove through the doorway as tons of metal crashed down where they had been standing. They made it to the rescue shuttle with seconds to spare. The last shuttle detached just as the transport broke completely in half. Pieces scattered into the asteroid field, tumbling away forever. But everyone was safe. All 47 civilians, every rescue team member, no one left behind. In the shuttle, Taman and Lyra sat on the floor, exhausted. Their suits were damaged, their bodies hurt, but they were alive. And so was everyone else. "You saved that family," Lyra said quietly. "We saved them," Taman corrected. Together. Through the shuttle window, they could see the debris of the transport floating away. It had been so close. They had almost lost people. But they hadn't. Because when it really mattered, species didn't matter. Politics didn't matter. History didn't matter. Only what you choose to do in the moment. Only the person next to you helping you lift the weight. Only the choice to save everyone, no matter who they are. The Academy Station's medical bay was full of activity. Doctors and nurses moved between beds, checking the rescued civilians. Most were fine, just shaken and bruised. A few needed more treatment, but everyone would survive. The rescue had been a success. In the recovery room, Taman sat on an examination table while a medical robot checked his bruised shoulders. Next to him, Lyra was getting her strained arm looked at. They were both tired, sore, and covered in dust from the collapsed cargo bay. "You both need rest," the medical AI said in its calm voice. "No heavy activities for 2 days. Your bodies need time to heal." "Can we go?" Taman asked. "Yes, but take it easy. You pushed your bodies to their limits today." As they left the medical bay, they found a crowd waiting outside. Students filled the corridor. Humans, Qualians, Trekors, Drazens, and dozens of other species. They were all silent, watching. Taman tensed, ready for more conflict. He had gotten used to hostile crowds, but then someone started clapping. It was a human student from the linguistics program. Then another student joined, then another. Within seconds, the entire corridor was filled with applause. Instructor Nara stood at the front of the crowd. "Let it be known," she said loudly, "that Cadet Lyra of Valesia and Cadet Taman of Earth saved 17 lives today through courage, skill, and trust. They are an example of what this academy stands for, what the Galactic Alliance stands for." More applause. Some students cheered. Lyra looked overwhelmed, her large eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't understand," she whispered to Taman. "They hated me yesterday." "Sometimes people need to see actions, not just words," Taman said. "They saw what you did today, who you really are." The crowd parted to let them through. Students nodded respectfully as they passed. Some smiled, some looked ashamed of how they had treated Lyra before. But the wall of hate was cracking. Even Cross was there, standing near the back. The big Drazen student looked uncomfortable. When Lyra walked past him, he spoke quietly. "You did good work today. I was wrong about you." It was not an apology exactly, but it was something. Lyra nodded at him, accepting it. Over the next few days, the academy felt different. The news of the rescue spread through every corridor and classroom. The footage of Lyra guiding the shuttle through the asteroid field played on screens everywhere. Students who had never spoken to her before now said hello in the hallways. Her xenobiology professors praised her performance in front of the whole class. The corner table in the cafeteria where Lyra used to sit alone was now full every day. Taman and his friends were there, of course, but so were many others. Students from all species who wanted to sit with the crew who saved those civilians, or who just wanted to sit with Lyra because they had finally seen past her purple skin. One day at lunch, a young Qualian student nervously approached their table. Her crystal body was light blue, showing she was barely more than a child in her species terms. "Excuse me," she said shyly. "Is there room for one more?" "Always," Lyra said with a warm smile, moving over to make space. The Qualian sat down, her crystals flickering with relief. "I'm Sarah. First year like you. I wanted to say, I'm sorry I avoided you before. My family lost people in the war with Valesia. I was so angry. But watching you risk your life to save strangers, I realized anger was blinding me. You're not your government. You're just you." "Thank you," Lyra said softly. "And I'm sorry for what my government did. I'm sorry for your loss. I wish I could change the past." "You can't change the past," Sarah agreed. "But maybe we can change the future, together." They talked over lunch like new friends discovering each other, and Taman watched with quiet satisfaction. This was what he had hoped for. Not glory or recognition, just this. People seeing people, species seeing individuals. After lunch, as they walked to their next classes, Bora nudged Taman with her elbow. "You know you started something, right? The whole academy is talking about the human way, about not judging species by their worst moments, about giving people chances." "It's not just a human way," Taman said. "It should be everyone's way. We just happen to remember it first." "Still," Jiwan added, walking on his other side, "you moved your tray when everyone else walked away. That took courage. Real courage. The kind that changes things." Taman thought about that first day. How heavy his tray felt as he walked toward Lyra's lonely table. How the whole cafeteria watched him. How easy it would have been to turn away. "It wasn't courage," he said finally. "It was just the right thing to do." Sometimes that's enough. 3 weeks later, the academy held a ceremony to honor the rescue teams. The large auditorium was filled with students and staff. On stage, Instructor Nara presented awards to everyone who had participated in the rescue. When Lyra's name was called, she walked to the stage with her head high. No more looking at the floor, no more trying to be invisible. She stood straight and proud, accepting her medal for exceptional service. The applause was thunderous. Not polite clapping, but genuine appreciation from hundreds of students who had learned that judging someone by their species' history was wrong. After the ceremony, Lyra found Taman outside the auditorium. The station's viewing windows showed the stars beyond, endless and beautiful. "I wanted to thank you," Lyra said, "for everything. For sitting with me that first day. For defending me when no one else would. For showing me that not everyone is cruel." "You don't need to thank me," Taman replied. "You earned your place here. You always deserved to be here. I just gave you a chance to prove it to people who couldn't see past their hate." "But why?" Lyra asked the question that had been bothering her for weeks. "Why did you take that chance? You had friends, a good reputation, a comfortable life here. You risked all of that for a stranger, for someone everyone else hated. Why?" Taman looked out at the stars, thinking about how to explain. "My grandmother used to tell me stories. About Korea before it unified, about families separated by politics they didn't create, about people who suffered because of lines on maps drawn by others. She always said that the greatest human strength isn't our intelligence or our tools. It's our ability to see suffering and choose to care, even when it costs us something." He turned to look at Lyra. "When I saw you sitting alone, I saw that same suffering. Someone being punished for things beyond their control. And I thought, if I walk past that, if I ignore it because it's easier, then I'm part of the problem. I'm drawing more lines and creating more suffering." "So you moved your tray," Lyra said softly. "So I moved my tray." Taman smiled. It was a small thing, but sometimes small things matter most. They stood together watching the stars, two friends from different worlds who had found each other in the most unlikely way. Behind them, the cafeteria was filling up for dinner. Their usual table was already crowded with the mix of species who now called themselves friends. Bora was arguing with Hyun about something technical. Jiwon was showing Sarah pictures on her datapad. Do-hyun was telling an exaggerated story about the rescue that made everyone laugh. "Come on," Taman said. "They're waiting for us." "I still can't believe it sometimes," Lyra admitted as they walked. "That I have friends, that people want to sit with me, that I'm not alone anymore." "You were never alone," Taman said. "You just hadn't found us yet, and we hadn't found you." They entered the cafeteria together. Students waved at them from various tables. The hostility that had once filled the air was gone, replaced by something better, not perfect acceptance. There were still some students who avoided Lyra, still some who held on to their prejudice. Change was slow, but it was happening. As they sat down with their friends, someone new approached the table. A Valesian boy, younger than Lyra, holding his tray nervously. He looked terrified, probably a new student who had just arrived at the academy. Can I?" he started to ask, already expecting rejection. Lyra smiled warmly and moved over. "Of course. Please sit. I'm Lyra. What's your name?" The boy's face flooded with relief as he sat down. "I'm Kano. I just transferred here. I was worried that everyone says Valetians aren't welcome." "Some people said that," Lyra agreed. "But then a friend taught me that walls can be broken down, that hate can be answered with kindness, that sometimes all it takes is one person willing to sit with you." She glanced at Taman, who was talking to Bora, but listening with half an ear. He felt her look and smiled. "So welcome," Lyra continued to the young Valesian. "You're not alone here. None of us are." Around the table, friends from a dozen worlds shared food and stories and laughter, different species who had learned to see past the surface, who had learned that the person matters more than the politics. The galaxy was vast and ancient, full of old wounds and older hatreds, but it was also full of young people learning new ways, full of small choices that built toward big changes, full of moments where someone decides to move their tray and sit with the outcast. And in that cafeteria, on that station, orbiting a star whose light had traveled for years to reach them, a simple truth was being proven again. That connection is stronger than division. That kindness is braver than hate. That every large change starts with someone asking a simple question. Mind if I join you? And that sometimes, just sometimes, the answer is yes. And everything changes. Not because of grand speeches or political treaties or ancient prophecies, but because one person chose to see another person and decided that was enough reason to care. That was the human way. Or at least, it was supposed to be. And maybe, if enough people learned it, it could be the galactic way too. The stars watched through the windows, silent witnesses to small kindnesses that built toward bigger understanding. And somewhere in the universe, another lonely person sat alone, waiting for someone to move their tray. The choice was always there, every single day, in every single cafeteria, across every single galaxy. Mind if I join you? The words that changed everything.